Hello, luxury real estate friends. This is my long overdue follow-up to the objection blog I did a couple of weeks ago. As you recall, we talked about 7 steps to handling objections from buyers or sellers. Number 1 was to pause, 2 is to repeat, 3 was to acknowledge the objection, 4, critically, is to isolate the objection, make sure that once you deal with this one objection, no more are coming down the pike. Number 5 is to deal with the objection or find an answer to it. Number 6 was to move on, and 7 is to close. What we're going to talk about today, as I alluded to a couple of weeks ago, is we're going to dissect the step number 5, which is to answer the objection. I created this matrix based upon what actually politicians use before they go into an interview with someone in the media. They create what's called a, I don't know what they call it, some kind of a grid or matrix, and you know how much I love the word matrix. So I made what I call an objection response matrix. It should be showing on the screen right now. Basically, if you take this step 5 of dealing with the objection and break it down into 4 steps, we would have response, story, data, and analogy. Response, story, data, and analogy. So let's look for an example of this. Okay, let's say that a seller, their only objection is you've isolated their objections down to just one thing. You know what? We just don't like that price you've suggested for our house. We want to leave room for people to make an offer. We want to leave room to negotiate. We just think that number you're talking about is just way too low. So you go through step 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now we're at step number 5, which is to deal with the objection. We break that down into these 4 steps. And it begins with our response. We know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, a low offer is better than no offer. Once somebody's emotionally committed to purchasing your house, even with a low offer, we have a good chance of bringing them up to your price level. If they never make an offer, we have no chance of bringing them up to your price. So there's the response. The story could go something like this. You know, this reminds me of the situation we had a year or so ago where we had a property in the market for X, and nobody came to look at it. Nobody came. This languished on the market. The seller was extremely motivated, so we dropped the price to Y. Well, this created all kinds of excitement, enthusiasm, and a sense of urgency so that we had 2 offers on the property, even in a tough market. And what's amazing is the ultimate agreed upon selling price was the original price plus around $500. So pricing your house close to the market can oftentimes create the excitement and enthusiasm required to get you 100% or more of your offering price. Can't guarantee that, but that's what can happen. So that's actually a true story. So I talked about my response and my story, and then we back it up with data. Backing it up with data, we might talk about, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we also did a study of all the sales in our marketplace over $1 million over the past 10 years, and we find that for every 50 days that a property stays on the market, the list to sales price ratio decreases by 2 points. 2 points every 50 days. So the key is to have your property on the market for as short a time as possible, and we do that by pricing it as close to the market as possible and creating that excitement, enthusiasm, and sense of urgency that results in a full price offer or sometimes even more. And then the last step is the analogy. So we have response, story, data, and analogy. And analogy I like to use all the time is fishing. And I'll say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, reminds me of fishing here in Cape Cod. You know, when you put the lines out in the water and you're trolling along out in Nantucket Sound, you know, if the fish never bites, you have no chance of reeling it in. But if the fish does bite, almost never, hardly ever do you lose the fish once he's on the line. And you know what, that's my experience with offers as well. Once the buyer bites, is on the line, you just play them and reel them in and get them up to the number we want to be. We have a much easier chance of getting them to buy your house if they actually make an offer. A low offer is better than no offers. Anyway, I'd be happy to send you my objection matrix, and we could experiment if you want to send me some examples of your objections, your stories, some of your data, and maybe an analogy or 2. I think that there's really only probably 9 objections you can hear, for instance, on a listing appointment. So if you prepare for your listing appointments by creating this matrix, you will be, as a lot of the people who are interviewed extensively in the media are prepared for any question that could arise. And you can always tell the politicians or the people in the media who aren't prepared, who haven't created a matrix, and you can tell the ones who have. So let's make it our goal to be prepared and ready for anything a seller dishes out. Send me your objections, your stories, your data, your analogies, and we'll construct a master matrix that I can distribute to everyone. Thanks again. See you next time.